Good. Come on in. Uh, and if there is any technical issue, Tanisha or Liam, just put it into the live chat because we can see the live chat on the big board in the corner here. So we can immediately respond to that. But otherwise, we're good. So just finally, nice, Tanisha. I was just going to check and see if you could hear me. So sometimes I lose that, but right now we're good. Would it be possible for the two of you to sit just maybe in there so they can see you? Yeah, great. Just on the edge there. It's good. So everybody is visible in the and Christian, would you do me a favor and just sit behind Sean and Gurpreet or and either come into the couches or just so you're visible. That way everybody can be seen and we can have an actual class. Okay, so here's what's happening on YouTube. Um, and nice guys, thanks. And I fixed things up on YouTube now, and for the so that the icons of the cosmos appear down here, so it looks like they're sitting in the class as opposed to vertical. Nice. So we're really things are looking good in terms of our multimedia class. And so let me park myself over here and see, we don't need the big self view there. I'll do it on, just get the default view so we can get everything. Yeah, good. So we have our eyes on YouTube in the corner there in case we have a crash, which we did last week in another class, but I was able to pivot really fast and start recording off Toria. The problem is on Toria, the recording shows the big board backwards. So I'll have to deal with tech at some point. Great. Welcome, everyone, to our April the 2nd class. We're coming down to the final stretch of the semester. And essentially, we have 3 classes left. And the final class, we shall see where that's going to go at this point. We don't know yet. It depends on something to do with one student. Christian, I want to check in with you today about the letter that possibly you could be doing for your final assignment to him. Okay, so are you going to start? I got you taped, so don't start acting up. Tech. Good. And so really, the final 2 classes, or we're in our final 3, but these next 2 classes, April the 2nd and April the 9th, are really critical. And hold on a second, I may have to do a quick troubleshoot with masking tape because the issue is up here. And that's where we're getting, hold on. It's just here for a second. Now, let's just try secure with, can you believe masking tape? This is about as low tech as you can get. Okay. Oh, okay, good. Okay. No WD-40 needed right now, but I do have some at home in the sunroom, which I use for my bicycle a lot. But anyways, okay, let's see if that works. I want to really not have to use the handheld so I can have my hands free. Okay, so these 2 classes, April the 2nd and April the 9th, are actually critical classes in terms of some very important course content that I want to provide you and that we can interact with today. And so essentially, I'm going to be concentrating on 2 critical characteristics of leadership in these final 2 classes with all of you in person and, of course, in the cosmos. And we might have one more guest for the final class. We'll see. But it's not that important. What's more important right now is that you engage with the really vital characteristics of global leadership so that you can address these in your final assignment and that you will walk away from this course with a much better sense of global leadership and some important takeaway for all of you. So as you know about my teaching style, as you've probably sensed already, I am into real learning. And I know that all of you are here for grades ultimately, as you should be, because that's the way your learning is assessed. But it's kind of pointless to get a high grade and then not really learn, because that defeats the purpose. It might solve a short-term problem, which is that you'll do well in a semester and get a particular credential. But in the long term, you're not really learning vital things. And so my hope is that you're going to get a really good grade and you're going to really learn. And so I think that if you are concentrating in class, that you bring your head and your brain into the class, that you actually will do both. But if you want just high grades, there are ways to cheat. Everybody's doing it on ChatGPT, and there are tools now available to you that enable you to cheat very quickly, which is a really amazing but dangerous thing we have. So I'm going to assume that the ones who are here in person and even the ones in the cosmos asynchronously, you don't want to cheat. And I'm going to assume that the better angels of our nature are in this class, not the darker side. But that's your choice. I can't stop you from cheating. I can catch it when I can, but ultimately, as we move towards this final part of the semester, in terms of a grade, in terms of a final assignment, the choice between cheating and not cheating will rest with you. And you will have to live with that choice, come what may. What I will do is try to address something today that I think will speak to this dilemma that you might be facing in the final days of this semester, which is, to what extent does a person, and especially a leader, decide that the means justify the end, and that you can cheat, you can do things that are considered sleazy and dark for the sake of a higher purpose? Or do you have courage? That really is going to be the critical part of today's class. There are three qualities that I'm focusing on in this final part of the semester that are vital to global leadership. Imagination, which was about vision. We looked at that last week. What is your vision for a new Canada? And to start to think about vision and imagination. Courage. And finally, next week, perseverance. Imagination, courage, and perseverance. They are so important in leadership and so important in many aspects of your life. And if you can really begin to understand those three qualities and think about them in terms of what we've been doing this semester, I think that something in this semester is going to stick with you. So last week, we were looking at this critical quality called vision. And I want to pivot this week to something in which I'm going to provide a case study to help you to understand something about courage and what courage means. I'm going to actually give you today a very current example of an individual in the world who is displaying what could be considered great courage, but maybe you look at it a different way. And so I want to explore this idea today of what bravery and courage means to you and how you would define it in terms of global leadership and perhaps ultimately in your own leadership style that you might be slowly developing. And I like case studies. I like real life examples. And this is one for which we will not have a guest today, but the guest is going to be sort of in spirit. And when we have a little bit of time, when we start the activity at the screens momentarily, I will bring up a picture of him and even show you a video of an interview that he gave just recently. So please make sure that you keep these three things in mind. And it's great that Afoma is here. Now let's take a look, and I'll bring the camera over there for a second and see how our presets are working. And there she is. Oh, look at YouTube is actually almost instant today. There's Afoma on YouTube, beginning some notes. And Afoma, when you're ready, could you just write down in three numbers, really big, number 1, number 2, and number 3. And number 1, write down imagination. Number 2 is courage. And number 3 is perseverance. And those are the three things that we're going to look at. Wow. Look at how fast that is today. Lovely. Okay. So before I begin with this part and get you over to the screens and working on notes together, there's a good format that seems to be developing at last in this room as I sort of prepare you here in this circle. Everybody moves over to the screens to work on a particular question, and then we come back and we take it all up there together. It seems to be working well. And if we have a great note taker here, I know it's a glitch today. So could you move those three notes over to the other side? Just rub it off and see if you can work around this. We always find workarounds somehow because tech should not cause tech stress. It should just be, oh, we'll find another way. Okay. So does anybody have any questions? Anybody here want to bring anything? Alec, here you go. And it should be on. Let's check. Nice. It's there. Go ahead, please.
Just a just like an overall question. How many cheaters have you found this semester?
How many?
People using ChatGPT have you found this semester?
Well, the ones that have told me the truth when I asked them, 2 maybe. But my general view is that when I'm suspecting in an assignment or in discussion posts that somebody is relying too much on ChatGPT, because we need to use these tools. I understand that, but that they're abusing it. Then what I will normally do is I'll have a private conversation with the student, and I'll explain to them that I'm going to help them, but if this continues, it's going to really hurt them. In other words, there will be an academic alert put out for cheating that will follow them around in their file, that they need to understand that there are real consequences for this. So 2. I can't tell you from the standpoint of teaching today what an amazing time this is to be in a classroom, but also very challenging. There is so much changing around us, not just from our politics, in our societies, but also in the technologies that are being used. And so, from an educator standpoint, you have to be really on your toes now because some of these tools are very helpful, Alec, but it just becomes very, very attractive for students, particularly students who have trouble with speaking English or writing English. They also are younger. You're not older, Alec. I'm the older one here, but there are students in their teens who have grown up with this technology as simply an extension of themselves. So for them, it just, they have it in their hands all day. All day there's a machine in their hands, and they're used to, when they need to get something, instead of using their brain, they just click on Google. They go here, and so they're used to using a device for everything. And so when I tell them, but don't you realize that you shouldn't be using a machine to write your sentences, they will say, but that's normal. I've been doing that through my school career. I've been doing that back in my own country. Why can't I be allowed to do that here? And anyways, they'll say, well, writing a sentence is my ideas are there. Those are my ideas. It doesn't matter if the machine has written it for me. I've given it my ideas. Why shouldn't I be using this? Because that means I'm freed up now to do other things. So the machine can do things for me. That's what a machine is there to do. Liberate me from hard work. So then, Alec, I feel as a 62-year-old that maybe I'm out of touch. Even though I think I've created a very sophisticated classroom that uses technology well, which nobody is doing anywhere in the world like this. I know that. I will still say to my wife, and am I out of touch? Should I be allowing students to be using more of these applications? And should I let them rely more on artificial intelligence to do the basic thinking for them so they're freed up to do other things? And then I will say, and we will discuss something. No, I draw the line here. When I think your critical thinking is being taken over by a machine, I will never allow you to go further because I will not teach students to be more passive. 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 I won't say to them, don't bring the machine into the class because I know it's critical. But if, particularly someone who's going to be a leader, cannot figure out how their relationship is going to work with their machines so that the machine makes them smarter, makes them calmer. If the machine begins to dictate what they think, and they hold people like Elon Musk as their heroes, corrupted individuals who will do anything for money. Anything for money. We're seeing that with Elon Musk in a way that is almost obscene in the way that he has brought money into the electoral process, paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to sign petitions, to vote. This is obscene in terms of how it's corrupting and commercializing our brains. If I see I'm a part of that, then I know I've crossed a line into a place that is not going to help society. That's too long of an answer, Alec, to say for all of you, I know you care. I know a lot of you are massively stressed. I know that you're not cheating because it's something that you believe you can get away with. It's more desperation in the final part of a semester where you think, God, I've got 7 courses, so many things to do. Lon's course is not important, so I'll farm it out to AI at the end. Who cares? In the end, you're only making yourself more passive, weaker mentally, unable to handle the stresses of this world today, and you just open yourself up to more and more manipulation in the future by people who are taking control of this technology. Now, the good news. Now, the things that should lift us. Does anybody have any other question they'd like to ask? Anything they'd like to say before we continue? And I'm going to give you an interesting role model today of somebody who I think is displaying something that we would call courage, but I'm not entirely sure. and I want to explore this with all of you. So, okay, you good? Anything? Well, I'm going to bring him up shortly when we get going on the screens, but I would like to talk for 5 minutes or 10 minutes just to get you set up so that we can answer a question. Are we seeing a great display of courage here, or is it something else? Something more selfish? So, what is courage exactly? What is that thing called courage that you all kind of sense, but how does it play out in the real world? And how might we define? You've got the, yeah, go ahead, Alec. And then I'm going to introduce you to somebody. Alec, please go ahead.
I believe courage is the ability to stand up for what you believe in, the ability to not just sit down if someone disagrees with you and you're just more passive, but to fight for the ideas that you agree with.
Does courage require some sacrifice, would you say?
Oh, all the time.
All the time. Yeah, I think that's pretty true. Um, does anyone else want to try to answer? And I'm going to assume the reason you're not is because you're listening, not that you're indifferent or you don't care. Okay, so Foma, could you write down this name, Jason, Jason Stanley, Stanley. Jason Stanley is a person who just might be displaying something called courage. Have any of you heard of his name? Jason Stanley? Anybody? Liam? Tanisha? Anybody else in the cosmos? Have you heard the name Jason Stanley? Okay, good. Well, um, here's the headline. Jason Stanley is a professor of philosophy and also political science. He was a professor in the United States at Yale University. And he has written extensively on fascism, Germany during the Second World War, the movement in Germany that led eventually to the election of Adolf Hitler. Remember, he was elected. He has been a kind of authority, or at least he has been outspoken about the changes taking place in the United States that has led others to start to leave the United States and go elsewhere. Well, Jason Stanley decided that he's going to move with his 2 children, his wife is a black cardiologist. He has 2 children, black and white, or blackish. I'm not sure exactly, haven't seen them. Blackish, Jewish. And he decided, after a year of thinking about it, I'm going to accept a position at University of Toronto, and I'm going to move to Toronto with my family. Now, he's not the first. There's another very outspoken American scholar named Timothy Snyder, who has been very outspoken in his defense of Ukraine. He wrote a very short book called 20 things to watch for in terms of the next dictatorship or tyranny. He's written, in a way, about the same things that Jason Stanley has written about. And he too has taught at Yale. He has moved to Toronto now as well. In fact, just last week, he spoke at the Toronto Public Library. 2 very prominent American scholars, but we're going to focus on one, Jason Stanley, who have decided to make a statement. And they have both said, at a risk to themselves, but we have to define what the risk is, okay? What the sacrifice is. I'm leaving my home country now. I'm moving to Canada, to Toronto. Alec?
You also forgot to mention all the doctors that are also leaving.
Just last week, prominent heart surgeon, I believe too, University of Ottawa, had been offered a position to make a lot more money in San Francisco. He was packed and ready to go. And then he decided, after some soul searching, based on some of the recent decisions made by the American government, he's not going. He's going to stay in Ottawa. Sean, good. Go ahead. You always have good. That's on. Okay, so go ahead.
We don't know whether or not that specific doctor did it because of like the politics or the fact that the tariffs are on. So I don't know which one.
No, good. Sean, very good. And that's what we need to explore. I've walked in here today and I've said to you that we're going to talk about courage. But I'm going to make sure that we open this into a more complicated exploration of what courage means, because maybe it's not. Could be fear, but also in some interviews that Jason Stanley has given, I will show you one. He has been asked, well, why don't you stay? Stay at Yale, stay in the United States, and put together a movement of people, and don't just run away. So the question will become, and this is the question I'd like Afoma to write down. Courage always can be looked at in other ways too. But we want to make sure that you walk out of the class today with a better understanding of what it means in terms of global leadership and your own future. Is it courage or is it capitulation? Somebody in the live chat, please go ahead and write down the definition of capitulation. Capitulation, C-A-P-I-T-U-L, capitulation. 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 What does this mean? I just want you to think, because in a moment, you're all going to go to the screens and try to figure this out. What do you think, Amir? Capitulation. You're thinking. Capital? Okay. Capitulation.
So as a non-English speaker, so when you say like capital letter, maybe you mean like from something small to something bigger, let's say?
Not quite. Sean, do you know what capitulation means? Do you want to try? Capitulation. No? Okay. All right. Well, you're going to know soon enough. And we're going to explore this. Does any surrendering?
You
got it.
No, I was actually reading from Tanisha's comment over there.
Okay.
She gains credit. I'm just taking credit from reading it out loud, I guess.
That's pretty good. You're watching what comes in on the live chat and you're listening to what another student says.
So just to explain what Tanisha is saying.
Yeah. Good, Tanisha.
So the definition of that word is the action of surrendering or causing to resist an opponent or demand.
Yeah. Has he given up and surrendered and left, or not?
I mean, it's also plausible that he kind of. It's also plausible that Justin Trudeau basically was nearing the end of his term. I mean,
Yes.
he did kind of serve 2 years or 2 terms.
Go on.
He was just taking an early break. That is entirely possible.
Well, I'm going to bring up the interview with Jason Stanley, one of many that he has given. And Oh, hold on. There's always something techie that's going to collapse. I've got it. Just a second. Now it's the keyboard. Thanks, Alec. Okay. Are we okay? Is it off track? Could you fix that? Okay. Thanks. So we always have tech support to. Okay. So while Alec is working on that, let's move on for a second. I really want you to see him and meet this person, and then we will go to the screens. In terms of this question, do any of you have any other examples of individuals that you think are displaying courage as global leaders around the world? And we can also touch on them. Thanks, Alec. Today, what's that? Yeah, thanks.
Can I?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. President Duterte of the Philippines. He's currently on quote unquote trial in the World Justice Court, I believe.
Yes, yes.
While he's on trial for like supposed killings of innocent gang members.
Yes.
However, the people of the Philippines are currently like making podcasts, radio broadcasts, songs, and even protesting in multiple countries that he's innocent.
We might touch on Duterte of the Philippines a little later, because some have called him also a bit of a dictator and strongman too. But Alec?
The Valkyries of the Ukraine?
Zelensky? Did you say? Or
No,
of
Valkyries.
of which? Okay. Can you write that down? First, Duterte is Duterte, Duterte of the Philippines. And Philippines is with 2 P's and 1 L, if I remember correctly. It's a tough spell. Okay.
Phil?
So Duterte,
Yeah.
Philippines, who's no longer president, but he's on trial right now. And then in Ukraine, who is he again, Alec? She. Please give Afoma, the Ukrainian female leader that I vaguely had known, but I mistook and thought it was a male, and it's actually a female, so I'm wrong. Please, Alec, give Afoma the information.
So the Valkyries are a all-female army unit in the Ukraine fighting to protect their homeland.
Oh, how do you spell that? Do you know? Valkyries.
Valkyrie.
Oh, they're based on the Second World War. The name VAL, so the Valkyries, the all-female fighting unit in Ukraine.
Valkyries are also known in other worlds known as
Valkyries.
female angels.
And I think there was a Second World War unit.
The symbol of
Valkyries. Very good example, Alec. Okay, so the Valkyries, the female soldiers fighting in Ukraine. But again, we will explore this idea of courage, because we have learned sometimes that people go into war, yes, to defend, but some go into it because they like the camaraderie. They like the action. They believe that it's the right thing to do, but in a way, they're benefiting personally because it's exciting. That could be a cynical view, but nonetheless, we can look at courage in different ways. Let me just bring it back, okay? 2 examples there. One more? Okay, Alec, yeah.
Rudolf Kastner.
Rudolf K.A.?
Kastner.
Rudolf Kastner. Tell us who he was.
He was a Jewish lawyer who was writing passes for Jewish people to leave Germany before the start of the war.
Rudolf Kastner. Put that down too, okay? Rudolf Kastner. And that helps me to come back to Jason Stanley. Jason Stanley, let me just start to run this. You're going to meet the professor right now explaining why he has left the United States. He is the son of Holocaust survivors. So he is Jewish. He's married a black woman, the son of Holocaust survivors. He believes greatly in the idea of American liberty. And he thinks that that era is over in the United States. But let's see, okay? And then we will work on this together, okay? Here we go. I will put this link for all of you online right now to do this quickly. Just go to Google right now, Tanisha, Liam, and everyone else, and enter Jason Stanley and click on the interview that he just did with MSNBC, and then we will discuss this. Here we go. Hopefully this will work. And here is.
Crackdown on universities and colleges. Jason Stanley, author of How Fascism Works, The Politics of Us and Them, is departing the Howard Ivy League School to teach in Toronto, telling a philosophy website the reason is, quote, entirely because of the political climate in the United States. This comes as the Trump administration threatens to withhold funding for preeminent institutions like Columbia, which capitulated to the administration over so-called security reforms. And as grad students from Columbia and Tufts are among scholars now detained by immigration enforcement after their involvement in pro-Palestinian protest writings. Professor and author Jason Stanley joins us now. Professor, thanks for taking the time with us. You cited the current political environment in this country as why you're leaving, why you're heading to Canada. Is it impeding you from teaching what and how you want to teach?
Oh, absolutely not. Yale has, to this extent, protected its scholars, unlike Columbia, who forced, for example, Catherine Frank, a prominent law professor, into early retirement. So it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with my children and my desire to send a warning to Americans that is consonant with the work I've been doing.
You talked about Columbia submitting to the White House's demands after the threats to withhold federal funding. I mean, some of what they agreed to are new rules for protests, more security officers that can make arrests, new leadership to oversee certain academic programs like Middle East studies. You called Columbia's capitulation a warning. How so?
Well, Americans don't really understand some of the details. They put the department, never before has the federal government intervened to put a department into receivership, much less an excellent department like the Department of Middle Eastern Studies at Columbia University. And it's not new leadership. They're going to appoint perhaps a non-academic. It's someone who's obviously going to intervene in academic affairs. They're very serious about this. Receivership is only meant for when professors in a department dislike each other so much they can't be in the same room together. And needless to say, this crackdown, Columbia's capitulation to this is a grave sign about the future of academic freedom, in addition to, say, hauling people off the street and sending them to Louisiana prisons like they did at Tufts University for co-authoring op-eds in the student newspaper.
Yeah, I mean, it's Tufts, it's Columbia, Georgetown, the University of Minnesota. I mean, we keep learning of new and new cases of grad students or other academics being detained by ICE. And I'll note that these are people who are here legally. They have permanent residence, or, student visas. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said last week that these cases are just the beginning. What is the message this administration is sending by detaining these scholars and prioritizing this sort of a crackdown?
The message is that they're going to do a kind of stochastic terrorism against our country. They're going to target people one by one so that those who are in fear will shut up, essentially. And universities are filled with fear already. They're ceasing to make public statements. They're not banding together. Right now, they're targeting non-citizens for, writing in student newspapers. I'm sure, or I suspect they'll start pulling people's passports, targeting U.S. citizens for various reasons, and exploiting Americans' ignorance. Generally, we don't know about each other's workplaces, exploiting Americans' ignorance about academic freedom and they're trying to, and I fear they will succeed in destroying America's higher education system, which is by far the best in the world.
I wonder, there are probably people watching this right now thinking, well, you have a lot to say. You are an American citizen. Why not stay and try to be the change you're seeking? Why not be part of the pushback to this sort of behavior?
I will continue to throw punches against fascism and bullies from Canada. Don't worry. I have 2 Black and Jewish kids. I think my kids actually are more important to me than anything else. So they're using my religion to go after academic freedom, crushing universities supposedly in the name of protecting my people, American Jews. My kids are Jewish, my kids are Black, they're attacking their history. And I want to send a political message, as I've been doing with my work. This comes at great personal cost. This is not some, I'm taking a huge salary cut. I'm not a super wealthy person, I'll still be well paid, but I'm taking like a 25% salary cut, removing myself from my homeland that I love. And I love America because it doesn't have kings. I don't love America because we can punch other people in the nose.
And so,
I'm going to get the 5 screens going. Courage or capitulation? Is this person a real global leader? Somebody who cares so much about society, wants to contribute to the greater good, is prepared to walk the talk? Well, I'll get this going in a moment. But I want to just remind you before you go to the screens. I come from a long career before I came into the classroom as a professional journalist, filmmaker, executive producer. I've done a lot of things. I've even won the Governor General's Award for Public Service with my partners many, many years ago for a documentary I did at CBC called Runaways, 24 Hours on the Street. 2-hour primetime news special in 1987. Most number of viewers in the history of Canadian television for documentaries. Myself, senior producer and writer, and my 2 partners, and we won a Governor General's Award. I care about society. To me, when I come into a classroom, the freedom to teach and the freedom to speak and the freedom to explore and to have the support of my institution to do that is sacred. And I'm a bit different as an educator in the sense that I really want you to learn badly. Well, we all do, all educators. But that means that I actually think a class should deal with really difficult things. So I would like you to go to the screens now together. You're going to work through this question. This is real stuff of the real world that matters to all of us right now. Aaron, let's make sure that everybody has a chance to speak. Do you want to, Amir, hand Aaron the microphone? And go ahead. Yep.
I think before we do that, we should actually sit down and think whether what Donald Trump is doing is actually for the greater good of America.
Fair enough.
He may have, Donald Trump and whoever he works with definitely wants America to get to greater places. And there are reasons they do the things they do.
Yes.
And some of the reasons they probably take out international students. One of Donald Trump's guys said that they're at a point where universities would rather admit international students and actually take actual Americans, and that's affecting them in the long run. And
yes,
that's why they're doing what they're doing. So there is a reason behind. It's not that they're just coming and saying, you know what, you guys get out. They're actually doing this for the greater good of their nation.
Can you come in so we can see? Because I love the fact that, this student who is very interested in freedom and democracy, is displaying courage right now because he said, I'd like to know what good Donald Trump is doing. Because obviously he is doing something because people voted for him. So this is not normally what we would address in a class like this, because we would take it for granted that he is not generally doing good for the world. But you're right. We should take the time to understand what is the good potentially that Donald Trump is doing, okay, before we do this. Because in this room, we have to be able to discuss the most difficult things. And it is a fact that he was elected. And people believe that he is doing good for United States of America. So what is that good? Well, let's touch on this, okay? Aaron, we'll make some notes. And Afoma, Donald Trump, let's do a slide. The positive aspects. Well, let's see if we can actually determine them. Obviously, there are some, I think. I could give you some.
I would also like
Aaron,
to
do you wanna
point
come
out
in a
that
little-
there
okay,
might
just sit
also be
a little closer? Go ahead, Sean. And then we're going to, because
there can be factors on the side that's opposing Trump
Okay.
that that part of that opposition might be doing things that don't sit well with their own supporters or other people that like they don't like. Like I've heard that in the gaming community, people
Yes.
who support LGBTQ communities basically try and bully other gamers, or belittle them, saying that they're ugly or whatever, basically trying to bully them out into buying games that support LGBTQ
yes, and get rid of them.
favoritism, and just
Yeah, okay.
basically dominate the game.
But let's stop for a second, because I really like what Aaron has. You've displayed real independent thinking, in that you are listening, and then you said, well, let's figure out what good Donald Trump is doing, and then we'll continue, because maybe Jason Stanley, in his stance, really is not displaying that much courage, because the fact is that Donald Trump is actually good for the United States and is not a dangerous force. So let's make some notes together, okay? And we'll do this together before you go to the screens yourselves. In the live chat, could you try the best you can to start putting in what you perceive as the reasons why Americans voted for Donald Trump to the point where he won the election? The popular vote, by the way, that he won was very, very slim. So there were something like 350 million Americans. The number of eligible voters, in terms of at the age at which they could vote, is less than that. I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but we do know that around 150 million voted. Around that. Aaron? 76 or 77 million voted for Trump, and the other voted for Kamala Harris. It was close, the popular vote. So that's a fact. So we do need to say that a lot of Americans did not vote, and a lot of Americans did not vote for Donald Trump, but there were a large number who did. But then you have to look at the Electoral College and how the whole representation of votes plays out. We won't get into that. The point is, close to 80 million did. Close to 80 million did. So why would they do that? Okay? And let's go around and understand this. This is not an easy conversation, because in Canada right now, it is normal and common to be doing this. like I have, to be proudly Canadian and angrily and defiantly anti-American right now. That's the moment we're in. So for Aaron to come and say, tell me what exactly is good about him, because obviously there's something good, I love, because that is real courage to say that. So let's see around here before we go default. Your default today, Sean, your default. Okay. Afoma, is there anything you want to say? You want to just continue to take notes? You're okay there? Okay. Christian, you want to try? Why would they vote for this person? Isaiah.
I think he inspires a certain type of rhetoric and resonates with people who feel they've been marginalized, especially in the last, let's say, like 10 to 15 years. Like obviously, border security is an important thing, but I don't think denying people due process and acknowledging refugee status is the way, not acknowledging refugee statuses is the way to do that. I
Yes.
think there's ways to like improve these services, but like how you consolidate power and like how you like um gain people, like polarization in the media is like by saying crazy things, by doing crazy things and making people feel um represented, if that's the right word. But I
Okay.
think like yeah, like lots of people are struggling with like cost of living and inflation, and to see that like there's other groups that have access to government funding or like certain jobs, like it creates a disconnect between the population. And there's definitely like a level of classism, I guess, in like America, where there's middle class people, there's poor people, and then there's refugees, immigrants, undocumented people who are trying to work in America.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I think everyone's experiencing things differently, and they're all like expressing their feelings in a different way.
I'm going to ask Aaron to take the microphone now. And as you listened to Isaiah, okay, because I could see you're listening, what would you say was the critical positive part of Donald Trump's presidency that he was trying to tell us?
From what Isaiah has said, it's very clear that he understands Trump is doing what needs to be done. He's just being too aggressive with the way he's doing it. Yeah.
Okay, so let's put number one. He's doing what needs to be done. Interesting. Okay. Foma, do you want to write that? He's doing what needs to be done. So what is he doing that needs to be done that Isaiah has said? And then let's go, it's Dylan Rolson, of course, yeah. Dylan, go ahead, okay? And then we'll come back here. But thanks for starting this. It's a great conversation. It's so anti the direction of a lot of discussions today in Canada, but we need to understand this. Dylan?
I think that to touch on the point of like what needs to be done, I think that he's putting Americans first, and I think that a lot of people are feeling that they're being put first instead of putting everybody else first, and they're suffering for other people. So I think that him speaking the way that he is I guess more aggressive, and he's speaking to them kind of like in a selfish manner, and they're taking it as that, putting themselves first.
Yeah.
So
He's speaking, okay. Aaron, go ahead, okay? He's putting Americans first.
Yeah, he's like he said, putting Americans first. Donald Trump is voted by Americans, not by us.
That's right.
So no matter what he does, whether it affects us or not, the most important thing is, does it positively affect the Americans that actually voted him? Because quite a number of them did vote him. And almost everything he's doing is actually for the good of them. He's fixing their economic deficit. He's working on their border. For us, it may be like what he's being bad to us, but he's actually working for the people that voted him. He's making America great again, which is why he was actually put into power.
Okay, so number three, you've just said something interesting. You said he's making America great again. Put that number three. Now, we're putting things down here, but But be aware that that is the slogan. It may not be true. What I'm going to show you a little bit later is going to help you to understand a bit more about Donald Trump's first term, because we do have something to go on in terms of his record. And I'm going to take you to a website called factcheck.org, which is a well-established, well-respected website used by both all peoples who have different political views. They respect it as independent. And I'm going to show you something about how what he said he achieved to make America great again then against a fact check is a little bit different. So we need to make sure we check this later, okay? But first, he's making America great again. That's what he says, okay? He's putting Americans first. He's doing what needs to be done. Let's keep going, because this is great. Isaiah will come around. This is so important to understand. Go ahead, Isaiah.
I think what's important to acknowledge is, like, yeah, I don't necessarily think that the statement he's making America great again, like making America great again. But what it's important is to know is, like, who is he making America great for, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's a strong prevalence of like white nationalism through MAGA, which is like very pervasive in the type of society that we live in, as there's lots of different types of people other than like white people in America. And that's also a thing that's happening in Canada as well, with this trade war and growing disgruntledness between the international student process, is that there's a group of people that feel that they have lived their life like unrepresented by the government, by the society. So now they need to feel like acknowledged and prevailed in the media when they live in a society that's built to support them, right? When you talk,
And he gives them a voice.
yeah,
He gives a voice to the marginal. Voice to the marginal.
that's why.
Is that fair to say? Voice to the marginal.
But then it's not marginalized people. That's why this whole conversation around DEI like doesn't make sense, because like as a nation you should want to and like aspire to have diversity and inclusion like across all spaces. When you talk about who benefits the most from DEI, it's white women. Those are the people who've gotten the jobs from DEI. It's not black people. It's not like immigrants. Like, yes, we've been represented, but the true people who are actually holding these positions are women, right? So we're saying like, okay, like we'd rather not have women in any government position because it's diversity and inclusion, when they're just as qualified, or a black person or an immigrant. Like, why is it that, oh, like I'm an immigrant, it's DEI, but I'm just as qualified, or I'm an immigrant, I have 2 degrees, why do I have to start my education process all over again? Right? It's these types of systems that are like oppressing people and that are being used to spread certain types of rhetoric.
Okay, well, we have my dream going now at last, which is I can sit here and we can move this around in a circle. We're not going to go to the screens. We're going to keep this going because we're on something really important. Froma's good notes are being done. I want to make sure we keep this going because we're on something so important. Aaron, I want to make sure you understand I'm sure you do. DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You have stated that you really do want to have a career in politics, or you're exploring that you may go back to Uganda, is it? You may go back to Uganda. Is it Kinshasa? No, Kampala. Sorry, Kampala. And by the time you're 40, you would like to have a position there. So understanding what a good leader is really important to you. A global leader, maybe more important than even some of the students here who don't want to go into necessarily politics, but they want to go into other areas where they will demonstrate leadership. But we're talking today about politics. So I just want to make sure that this, in the way I'm defining you in this conversation, is correct. You care about global leadership. You care about leadership because it's personal for you, almost. And in a way, you're trying to understand whether Donald Trump may not be as bad as people say he is? Excellent. Do you know how hard that is to have that discussion in Canada right now? So let's see where this goes. We want to make sure we have a few more notes there, and then we're going to move this on to really understand if Aaron needs to be fact-checked, or at least the courage that Aaron has had in asking this question will deliver an answer that is factually different than what Aaron thought. We got to go to the facts eventually. And factcheck.org is a good source. I will show you in a moment, okay? So, who else would like to contribute some points to the positive things that Donald Trump is doing? Why close to 80 million Americans in the so-called greatest democracy, the wealthiest country, the so-called most advanced nation with the best education system, as Jason Stanley says, I don't know if that's factually correct. Why would they vote in such numbers for him? Alec?
First, before I go on my rant, so for the DEI, I think it's 96.4% of all positions are filled by middle-aged white women.
Say that again. 96.4%
of all DEI positions are filled by middle-aged white women.
Are filled by middle-aged women.
Yes.
I could check that. So what you're saying is that diversity, equity, and inclusion, the policy that Donald Trump has and Elon Musk have taken a chainsaw to, like they fired everybody. They don't want that anymore. It's gone. That policy led to large numbers of hiring of middle-aged women, 96.4%.
Well,
if I understand.
Yeah. So no, but so the how do I explain this? So
Go ahead.
in Congress, a gentleman came out and he was explaining that all DEI positions, which are supposed to be for diversion, equity, inclusion, were filled by 96.4% Caucasian women. Like all those positions were filled by people that weren't considered like marginalized or from those type of backgrounds.
Maybe we should just say for now, for the sake of discussion to help it, that DEI policies helped a lot of women get positions that they couldn't get before.
I don't think that's what they were arguing, but we'll go with that.
DEI helped people get positions that they couldn't get before because they were marginalized. Now they were not so marginalized. But the point is, number 4, we would say he is removing DEI from our society. Could you write that down? Number 4, he is removing diversity, equity, and inclusion. He's asking or demanding that colleges and universities remove that from their programs, and that's exactly what Columbia University has started to do. They've started to implement programs that remove or minimize DEI so that institutions will no longer have an expectation to provide positions for marginal people. You either get there on so-called merit or you don't. That's it. That's it. But it's a very, we can dig into that because often people with so-called merit are the ones that have the most money, that can afford those good institutions and send their children to those places. They have the money, and when you don't have the money, you can't have access to those things. And so DEI has helped give people access who did not have the money before, or who did not have the money to do that. Now they were given that chance. They won't have that chance anymore.
But
I'd like to point out that DEI also possibly didn't include people of neurodiversity. Well, neurodiverse people.
Absolutely. But let's stop for a moment because I want to move this on. We have some positives, but I could add more. Alec, go ahead. But let's stay on focus, okay? Alec, go ahead.
So what I was going to speak about is if you look at his campaign promises, because we're supposed to be talking about positive things
Yes.
Trump has done. One of the things he talked about was a lot of the foreign assistance. For example, a lot of the foreign assistance programs that were cut, as you were saying, he's trying to bring it back to America's first. There was something about like $16 billion being spent overseas for programs that had nothing to do with American. Well, not just people, but like the idea of helping America. Normally, when you spend money foreignly, you want like some kind of return, whether it's positive in terms of like picture or anything like that. But some of these programs didn't do anything like that.
The USAID program, completely cut. But it also promoted relief. So the earthquake victims in Myanmar right now, which has suffered a massive earthquake, they can't tap into any more funds from USAID because it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
So, Aaron, go ahead. Okay. Yeah.
So the first point up there that I said is he's doing what needs to be done, and I added aggressively.
Aggressively.
So you see all the USAID programs. Approximately 150,000 US dollars was being sent to Uganda to support LGBTQ.
Yes.
It's very illegal. You'll get killed in my country for that. But all that money was being sent to try and have people fight against the government for that. Now, all that money is gone and does not benefit America in any way. That's taxpayers' money. That money could have been brought to America, and then you probably start companies or like cover costs for some companies to enable them hire more people and provide employment for your own Americans. And then those people will pay money in taxes, and that as well helps the government because then they can fund other parts of the country. And that's what Donald Trump is trying to do. They have saved so much money by cutting some of the programs. However, like for the earthquake victims, that could have probably been done slowly, like help those that actually really, really need the help. But for some programs, it was not necessary for them to continue funding them. That's why I said he's doing what needs to be done. However, he's doing it aggressively.
Well, first, we're on a very, very good raw nerve here. Foma, could you come and sit to be part of this? Now, Alec, we're going to come back here, okay? I promise. But more important than anything in a class for me is to get the students interacting and listening to each other. The notes and everything, that's secondary. The big board, all that is wonderful, but it's this that's critical. So, Aaron, are you ready for some difficult questions? Because a leader or a young emerging leader like yourself has to be able to handle anything calmly. You just said that in Uganda, LGBTQ, if you are openly LGBTQ, you will be killed. That's the government policy. If there is an agency outside of Uganda, outside of your country, that is prepared to support those people who might be killed for living in that way, if you were back in Uganda and you were in a position of leadership there, would you reject that money?
100%, I would.
As students listen to this, some of them are not going to be happy hearing this. This is courage, but it may not be the courage that you like. Let's just repeat, okay? I showed you at the beginning one type of courage, Jason Stanley. We've now had another student actually have the courage to say there might be something else here that we need to hear. And then I asked him a difficult question. And the answer he gave is not the answer perhaps you would like to hear. Could you explain why you would reject that money from America, Canada? It could come from anywhere, France, England, South Africa, Nigeria, Morocco, Egypt, any country says, I'm going to give you money right now Aaron, sir, because I know you need that money so that those people can live freely. How would you then help those people? Or would you not?
Firstly, I have my personal beliefs and values.
What's that?
I have personal beliefs and values, and I believe that sort of plays a role into my leadership as well. Firstly, with that money coming in for the reason they want it to come in support of LGBTQ, yes, money for countries like ours back in Africa is very, very crucial because we do need it to help the people in need.
Perhaps, yes.
However, in Africa, till this day, we believe in two genders, and that is male and female.
Yes.
And we're not willing to compromise our values, just like the Canadians are not willing to be bought out by America itself. And so we stand by male and female. And so money being brought in to change the way we live is sort of trying to influence us to then be, can I say, dogs to them? Because once they have money coming into us, it now puts us in a position where we are like
in debt,
say
or we're
yes.
somehow
ish, and we have to say yes to whatever they would like or whatever they would want the world to move to. So them bringing their money in gives them the power over us, because then we're just trying to be very polite and basically agree whatever they want
They
or
want.
think we should run our country. And so I wouldn't take that money.
So in a way, your freedom is being compromised, your
Yes.
dignity, because somehow you're, responsible to those who provide you with the money. They seem to be calling the shots.
Yeah.
Wow, we're on something very, very good here. Hold on. Yeah, good. I mean, do you want to take the microphone and see? And then let's see what Afoma has to say. And Alec and Tanisha, are you ready to get on your microphone from Sri Lanka? You spoke about freedom and about these issues. Are you able to use your microphone and get into a real-time discussion?
Yeah,
See,
I'm
okay.
actually dying to after
ahead.
hearing that.
Okay. Is it? Okay. Tanisha, say hello. Okay. Well, anyway, we'll come to you. Amir? Yeah.
Hi.
So my question, like to Aaron, like first, like before the question, I think you are actually a great leader. Like the question that he asked you was like so dangerous, but you answered like so smartly that if he asked the question for me, maybe they will kick me from all the college about what I will say, because I can't arrange my words as the same way that you did. So that's how leaders like talk. That's what I'm thinking. And the way that United States, as you say, so they give your country money just to change how the people think.
Yes.
What are you trying to say? And if you are in that position, you will refuse. Did they refuse in Uganda, or they have the money?
We did refuse the money.
Okay.
This is very significant what we're talking about, because let's pull back for a big picture here. Look at the map of the world. Okay? You happen to be living, and I'm part of that, at a time in history where everybody is sharing information from everywhere instantly. People are traveling everywhere cheaply. Our college probably could not survive without the tuition from Afoma and Gurpreet and Aaron and Amir. Now, eventually this leads to a question of whose values are going to matter in this technological, connected, interdependent world. Because ultimately, although Aaron is from Uganda, Jason Stanley is American, Jewish, black, whatever. Gurpreet is Sikh from the Punjab in India. Foma is from one of the largest African nation with one of the biggest populations, Nigeria. And Amir comes from the proud Turkish civilization. Oh, God, I'm sorry. Palestine. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. And then we have Sri Lanka, but if we're all on the same bus together, and we all recognize we're humans, then whose values are going to be providing the gas to move this bus? Whose values will be the ones that define how we look at one another? You want to talk complex? At the beginning of the semester, I said to you, the critical thing to understand about being a leader, two things actually. Number one was complexity. Can you deal with the complexity of an interconnected world? But then I said, and Afoma understood this in her assignment, I mentioned this, caring. Do you care enough about facing this complexity? And next week, I'm going to help you to understand the perseverance and endurance you need to deal with this, because there are no easy answers. This is so difficult and will take a long time to work through. So then, whose values? What's a value? If you have courage, you're going to stand up for your values at great sacrifice. I may be wrong, but Aaron has just given a textbook example of courage because he stood up for his values, knowing maybe that he's going to face a lot of resistance among us. Amir supported him. Oh, I could unload on Aaron, but that's not right because emotion doesn't decide things. Facts do. That's courage. Now, is he right? Should his values? He's an equal part of our global world. He's just as important as every other passenger on this bus. Every other. So then, are his values the ones that we want going forward together? Afoma? Ooh, let's see. Are you ready to answer this? This is hard. We're on the same bus. Could you, Gina, at last we get her live. Go ahead.
Hello, my friends.
Gina, just a second. Gina,
Can you hear me?
this student has been writing some excellent things. Gina, are you speaking?
I am.
Okay. Gina, please go ahead. No, we can hear you now. We can hear you. At last, we have
You can hear
Gina's
me?
voice. Yes, we can.
Okay. Hello, my friends. I hope you're well. It was Aaron that was speaking, right?
Yes.
Yes. So I just wanted to address Aaron and the values that he's expressing. But before that, I will disclose that I'm a queer woman. I'm a queer Tamil from Sri Lanka woman, and the values that you are expressing, I know you are wanting the better, but the values that you're expressing have a direct harm on other human beings. And as a global leader, you have to be a protector for everybody. So, how are you protecting those individuals that are part of the LGBT sphere? And I hope I'm not rude in this, but I do want, your answer.
I will tell you just to say, Gina has been writing some very good things. She's intelligent, she cares, she understands complexity, but now we're grown-ups and we're going to talk about hard stuff. Aaron, could you answer Gina? She's asking for an answer. FOMA, yeah.
Hi, Gina. So just before Aaron answers, right? Before he's going to, you will have to answer. But before he does, I would just like to ask Gina a question because that will better help you to answer. As a global leader in whatever sphere, country, initiative, whatever it is, do you think it is functionally possible to protect everybody? Because that was your question to him. You first asked, how will he protect everybody? So you might be suggesting that it is, but I would like you to answer, do you think that it's functionally, in a realistic way, possible to protect everybody?
That's a great question. Thank you. I think as a global leader, you have to have a lot of heart and a lot of sheer will. So if there is a will to want to protect everyone, I think there is a possibility. Will we do it perfectly? I don't think so. We're human and we make mistakes, but I think the most important part is the attempt. It's the I will not give up piece. Over my dead body piece. That I think that's important.
We have 5 minutes. We do? Okay. Oh, this is good. The first time in years a student has said, I want to go longer. Okay, good. You're right. So we will. But remember, there will be a professor shortly looking in the window. Okay. Absolutely. Now, Aaron, you are being asked to answer, and you have time, lots of time. Explain first your answer to Gina's question about a leader, a global leader should be protecting all.
Firstly, I want to thank Afoma for her statement because that's definitely right. No matter what you do, you cannot help everyone. Some people get affected negatively, while others get affected positively. But the most important thing is to make sure most of the people that get affected have been affected positively. Now, unfortunately, Gina, for the sake of my safety in this country, I cannot fully answer your questions. Not.
Okay, I don't want to put you at risk, but what can you answer? Because Gina, I know this is the only time she's spoken live in a class. This obviously matters to her. So you have to tell her something that would make her feel that she's been respected in terms of asking for an answer. Respect her.
I'll bend this towards where I'm from. So where I'm from, there's no gays and LGBTQ, the rest of them,
There's no
LGBTQ.
Yes, yeah.
Of that.
Uganda is one of the countries where it's illegal. You face the death penalty.
And we are, I'd say, okay with how we are, very okay with the way our values are. And now, if we have that come into our society, that sort of changes the way we start to live our lives, sort of changes the way we start to live and work with each other. And so, for us starting to allow those people or that idea into our society, I believe will greatly affect us forever and ever. And so I cannot answer our question because I'd probably answer it if I could say that, oh, at a point we're going to accept them, and when I'm the leader of them, how am I going to, take care of them? But I believe that we will not accept them to keep our society the way it is. And unfortunately, we lose funding from the World Bank itself because they have punished us quite a lot recently because we did refuse that. It is affecting us, but because we stand by our values, we believe in what we believe in. Most of us are religious, and religion states male and female.
Yep. Yep.
I don't know where the others came in from, but we will continue to believe in male and female, and we believe our society works and lives together believing in that. And so we will not change that. And when I take power too, I will not change that. I'll keep the death penalty and we will move together as we develop.
Gina, would you like to?
Yeah,
Ed?
I just wrote in the chat that I
Yep.
do respect that you know your country stands on its values and it doesn't take money when there is something that goes against its values. My concern lies where there is something that it's against your values, that there's harm done to other human beings. I don't think that justifies the harm, and that's my view. I understand it doesn't align with yours, but I'm expressing that this is my view. But thank you.
Howard? Sure.
Sorry, what religion does your country like participate in?
So there's Christianity, there's Islam, there's Buddhism, there's Judaism.
Okay. Just for I have a lot of friends in the LGBTQ community. So was it also the fact that even the church has come out and also talked about the fact that LGBTQ communities are a huge part of the community and a part of the church? Does that affect your view at all?
The church comes out and doesn't agree with it at all, and we stand against it. Before, actually, 10 years ago, it was just something, there's laws or norms that are not put into law, but we as society know we do not agree with this. However, LGBT started to grow, and then since it wasn't in Uganda, then that's when funding started to come in, and that's when a law was actually put against it. And so before the law was actually put, there were institutions and certain people that were being funded to teach people and actually tell them that you were not born to be this. And quite a number of them did leave the country, did seek asylum. And I am sure some of them are in Canada, in Toronto. I'm sure of that. They sought asylum because they were told they're not the right genders. And so, since the country doesn't recognize them for what they think they are, they left. I mean, we are not affected in any way, unfortunately. They've gone, they've left the country. They could have been important for us because they were young people that could have actually contributed to our economic growth, but they have left. But the most important thing is we've stood by what we believed in, despite the World Bank freezing banking. International funding has heavily reduced. I actually didn't want Kamala Harris to take the position because Biden's government, which was part of, actually did squeeze us a lot for not accepting. The UK did actually squeeze us as well, but they've all of a sudden released the hand that they were putting on us. So, yeah, I mean, I think once we continue to stand by what we believe in, we'll be fine. And with the thing of religion doesn't accept it as well, and that's a very good thing for us.
Well, anything else? There are many things that I can add to this to help, but the critical thing is that you all have a chance to interact with each other. Most importantly, because I've seen in your assignments and discussions, students are saying asynchronously, for example, when they watch these classes, they really like hearing what other students have to say. They really like the fact that here is a classroom where students are actually human beings interacting as grown-ups, as opposed to classes where they sit passively with their computers open and they just listen to a professor talk at a PowerPoint and give them information. This is alive. So you're very important in this. What you have to say to all those students, the majority of whom are not here. Most of the students in these classes, they're watching the show. It's like a show, but it's you guys are important. So
make sure that you say what you feel you need to say, and we will discuss it. Gina, is there anything else you'd like to add at this point, as we move forwards? We still have about 10 minutes left.
I think I would like to. I think Tanisha wanted to share something, so I wanted to give her that opportunity.
Great. Tanisha, could you go ahead, please, on your microphone?
Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you, Gina. So the thing that I was like, I do not know how to express this, but I want people to think from the mindset of a person who has been denied to express what they like, what their thinking is. Like, let's say that, for an example, let's say that I'm a gay person, and I have a fear that if I come out, I might get killed. And my fellow citizens also have the same mindset that you should not come out. You should be only a man or a woman. Like, it's harming my mind. It's affecting me. It's making me depressed. It makes me that I don't want to live anymore. So, in other words, your value might affect in my mentality, my right to live. So, would you still stand by your value if it's in another way is harming my life? That's the question I have, because as a global leader, as Gina said, it's the intention that matters. It's not the product. Even in our classroom, we say it's the process that matters. It's not the product. If you have the intention to protect everyone, at least you can protect 90% or 80%. If you think you can't protect anyone, how much of a percentage you think you're going to protect? So I want to ask from you, Aaron, just imagine that you are a gay person and that you can't come out because of that fear. And your own fellow friends and family think that you should not come out because that's the mindset many of the countries had before they came out open and supported other people. How would you feel?
We're going to let Aaron answer him here, okay? He's had the courage all along in this class to face this resistance. This is excellent. Aaron, and then we'll come to Amir, okay?
Let Amir.
You want to try? Amir, well, Amir, you're supporting Aaron, right? More or less? He's-
I think that to what Tanisha is asking is repetitive because Aaron already made his stance abundantly clear. So paraphrasing the question really doesn't change the answer. So that's why I said that perhaps Amir, who even if he's supporting Aaron, will have a different perspective because she asked the question, he already answered it before by saying that that's what he's going to
Sure.
stand by, right?
Okay,
I
but
think let's let
ahead.
Amir have a different perspective.
Okay, I would just say in
Actually,
fairness
no.
to Tanisha, Tanisha
The
did add
question,
something.
yeah,
Tanisha did
because the
add
question is different. I'm asking as a person who thinks like a gay person, not as someone outside. Think you are the person who is being suppressed, who is being facing the difficulty of coming out. Like, would you still think the same?
Okay, I'm not Aaron, but I can answer your question.
Okay, go ahead, Amir. Sure.
Okay, for me, like, okay, I will imagine I'm a gay person now. There's a lot of, like in my country, they are like not that acceptable, like in Pakistan, because we most of us are religious.
Yes.
They are like, like more like religion, more than one.
Yes.
But there's another country that they can like accept me or can accept what I'm doing, like Canada. You can go to Canada. You don't need to stay home and say, "Oh, I need you to accept me in my country." They don't accept you. You can go away. Like the same way what happened. Like for me, I'm Palestinian. I always like it's the same as gay, like in those countries. Like they will kill us if we go out. So I got like I can go to other country. It's the same thing. It's not like that hard. You don't need to put your aspects or what you think in other people. Like you must accept us. You need to accept us. We are right. No one wrong. No, you can just say something like one thing. I will work. I will work by myself. I'm not playing a victim card. No, I will be someone who will have like my points. I will be ready. What should I do? I'm not saying like like you are like against the human nature or something. That's something that you believe in. That's something you do, and I respect you as a person. I respect you as a human being. But your question, as Afoma said, yeah, Aaron answered the question to Gina, and Gina maybe can give you like the answer again. But I think you were like a little bit, if I can say it, disappointment from what Aaron said, or that's the thing that you feel. Yeah, disappointed. Yeah. Thank
Well,
you.
I'm going to let Tanisha answer, but I just want to add for Tanisha, because this is what I heard too. I think she was trying to say that this is me. I can't change this. It's who I am inside, and to not be able to be that person is deep suffering and anguish, to the point where we know in this part of the world people take their own lives, commit suicide for the lack of that. Tanisha, is that fair in the way that I've characterized that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. That your values as a leader should not affect someone's life where it comes to a point that they feel like they don't want to live. That's what I'm saying.
Aaron wants to answer this. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I feel like I've said this earlier, but just to add on to what I said, um, as of now, we do not have that in our societies. LGBTQ is not there, and some of us do believe that it's something engineered to disrupt or to go against certain societies or certain people or leaders in certain positions. Because now, if the LGBTQ was actually successfully put into Uganda, it would go against the current government. That would affect our society. That would shift the government's focus from other issues onto finding a way of accepting these people or finding a way of working with these people. So, in some way, I believe that certain countries are using this to affect certain countries.
Interesting
Because
point.
there
It's a
is,
weapon. They're using LGBTQ support as a weapon
thank you.
to, just the way Jason Stanley said that he believes that the American government now is using the support for Jews as a way, as a weapon to change the policies inside universities. They don't support Jews in their own beliefs. They're using it as a way to somehow bring in more repressive policies that will help Jews. But actually, they're just weaponizing their support for Jews to change the institutions in the way that he is saying LGBTQ rights may be weaponized by governments to change those countries.
Just to
Pretty
add,
smart.
I just want to add one more thing.
Yes.
So, for the benefit of people in these countries with the power, let's say America, for example, during Biden's time, you as a taxpayer in America, once some of your tax money is being sent to this country to support LGBTQ, you as a taxpayer do not benefit in any way from having a person in Uganda realize that they're in the wrong gender. Your tax money is being used wrongly to support what does not benefit you in any way.
I'm making a mental note of that because I want to address that next week in some detail. But 5 more minutes or 4 more minutes, okay? Isaiah, please. And thank you again for this excellent conversation. Go ahead, Isaiah.
I think everyone should be entitled to their own sexual liberation, whatever that looks like. You may have your own views of what you believe and how that may affect you, but I don't think anyone deserves to die for their sexual preferences. Um, at the same time, like to your point, like about like LGBT being used as a weapon, I don't think it's a weapon to directly impact how societies function, but it's like LGBTQ DEI are being used as weapons in a culture war to distract like lower classes of people from acknowledging what's actually happening in our society and who's controlling our populations and our societies. We there's a group of people who rather see us fight about who's a man and who's a woman and what's right being gay or not than saying why does 1% of people have control the majority of the wealth in our country. I think that's what's important to acknowledge is that you're entitled to your beliefs, but your belief isn't what's really impacting your life. It's the people that are the 1% that are saying, yo, you think being gay is wrong, that person's gay. Like, go tell them they're wrong. Like, you know what I mean? That doesn't help
They're
anything.
benefiting in the end from that division
Yeah.
that they've created in society.
So I think,
Benefiting.
yeah. So I think everyone, you know, like religious or not, you can't tell someone what to do. But I think everyone, like as a human, has a right to life, no matter what that looks like. So is what we can do. All we can do as humans is try and love people the way we want to be loved, and just put that out into the world, and hopefully good things happen.
Why don't we end there? And if the cameras here were sophisticated enough, it would end with a slow zoom into Isaiah's hat, because that's the sunshine. That's the brightness. Now, everyone, thank you for having all the courage to come and discuss things that really matter to make you better people and better leaders in the end. Third assignment is due this Thursday. Okay? And if there's anything you need to reach me about, you can shoot me an email. Take care, Gina, Tanisha, Liam, and Kenza. And I look forward to seeing you or hearing from you next week. Final assignment is going to be posted tomorrow's Thursday. Actually, tomorrow. I have it on my list. There's a bunch of things. Final assignment sheet will be posted tomorrow. Promise, okay? And let me just turn my microphone off so you have some privacy here. So here we go. Take care, Kenza.